I never thought I'd relive this nightmare. But here I am, again. It started the same way it did last time, my mom sitting me down, holding my hand like I was the only thing keeping her alive. She had that look in her eyes, that desperate kind of softness that made me feel like I actually mattered to her. She squeezed my fingers and whispered, "I don't know what I'd do without you, Nia. You're all I've got. Your brother, I should have never raised him. He hasn't even come to see me once since I landed in this hospital." And just like that, it hit me. I knew where I was. I glanced over at the calendar on the wall, and there it was, the date. That date. The day she first talked about writing her will. The first time around, I was so naive. I thought her words actually meant something. I thought that if I gave her everything I had, my time, my health, my life, there'd be something left for me in the end. But all it left me with was nothing, not even my dignity. I remember calling my brother back then, hoping maybe, just maybe, he'd step up. But the moment I mentioned she needed care, he hung up. No hesitation, no guilt, just gone. So I did it all alone. I worked during the day, and every night I rushed to the hospital. When she came home, I quit everything and became her full-time caretaker. She depended on me for everything, feeding her, cleaning her, keeping her company through those endless bitter nights. And the way she treated me, like I was some sort of failure, like I owed her this life. God, I still hear her snapping at me over the dumbest things. Even when a single hair fell from her head, she'd glare at me like it was somehow my fault she was stuck in that bed. I was exhausted in ways I can't even describe. But then, she said she was going to leave me everything, that all of this would be worth it. And I believed her. Like an idiot, I believed her. But when she died, he showed up. My brother, holding that shiny notarized will, smirking like he'd already won. And just like before, the judge didn't even blink. He ruled in my brother's favor, like my sacrifice meant nothing. I died that day, not physically, not at first. But inside, I was gone. When my body finally gave out, collapsing in that cold courtroom, I remember thinking, this is it. This is how it ends. But somehow, it wasn't. I woke up right here, right back at the start. And she was still playing the same act, crying about how he hadn't visited, about how she was going to leave everything to me. I nodded along, told her I needed to use the bathroom, but really, I just needed a second to breathe. Because I knew what was coming next. And sure enough, hours later, he finally showed up. Same lazy swagger, same bored expression like this was just another chore on his to-do list. He stood in the doorway, barely looking at her, and let out this sigh like we were wasting his time. "Say what you gotta say," he muttered. "I don't have all day." I could feel the heat rising in her face. God, she was livid. She started yelling at him, asking how he could be so heartless, how he couldn't even fake like he cared. But he just shrugged, cool as ever. "Isn't Nia already taking care of you?" he snapped. "You're not dead yet." And just like that, he grabbed an apple off the table and bit into it, right in front of her. Like none of this meant a damn thing. That's when she lost it. She started screaming about how much she'd sacrificed for him, how she almost died giving birth to him, how she fed him, changed his diapers, gave him everything. She even said, "If I'd known this is how you'd turn out, I would have never had you. I must have done something terrible in a past life to deserve a son like you." But he didn't even flinch. He just kept chewing that damn apple. "Say whatever you want," he mumbled between bites. "I'm not sticking around to take care of you. You love Nia so much. Let her do it for the rest of your life." That's when her voice cracked. I knew that tone, that desperate, emotional gamble she always made when she felt cornered. "Fine," she snapped. "Then don't expect a single cent from me. I'll leave everything to Nia." And there it was, the moment his mask finally slipped. He looked at her, squinting like he wasn't sure if she was bluffing. He leaned back, letting out this cold little laugh. "Everything?" he scoffed. "What's left? Haven't you already blown it all on hospital bills? What's left to leave?" He waved his hand like the whole thing was beneath him. "I make more in a week than whatever you think you've got left." She snapped. I could see it in her eyes. One second she was trembling, the next she grabbed the nearest glass of water and threw it straight at him, soaking his shirt and splashing all over the floor. I didn't move. I didn't say a word. I just stood there, watching like an outsider, like none of it really belonged to me anymore. Because deep down, I already knew. I'd spent a whole lifetime believing this was real, believing their shouting, their tears, their fights meant they cared. That they were fighting for something, for us, for family. And like an idiot, I used to try to stop them. I'd beg them to calm down, beg them to stop hurting each other. I used to believe if I tried hard enough, they'd love me too. But all of it was just theater. She never really wanted to ask him for anything. She just wanted me to throw myself into it willingly. So they put on their little show, the ungrateful son and the poor, suffering mother, and I played right into it. Not this time. She turned to me like clockwork, her voice sharp and full of fake hurt. Nia, why are you just standing there? You're really gonna let your brother talk to your mother like this? I didn't answer. I didn't even blink. Because this was the part where I was supposed to step in, defend her, prove I cared. But not this time. This time, all I could feel was cold clarity settling in my chest. She was never going to leave me anything. She never planned to. From the day I was born, it was always him. I was just the responsible one. The one who was taught to shut up, to carry the weight, to put him first. I remembered when I graduated. She showed up with a smile and asked me for $5,000 a month. Just like that, like it was nothing. And when I said no, she came to my office, screaming in front of everyone that I was ungrateful, heartless. I broke. I gave her $4,000 a month, just to shut her up, just to stop the humiliation. And later, I found out she was giving it all to him. My brother, who had never worked a real job in his life. My brother, who burned through money like it didn't even exist. When I asked him to help with her hospital bills, he laughed in my face, told me he didn't have a single cent to his name, so I paid for everything, her surgery, her care, every goddamn thing. I begged, I borrowed, I drained myself dry. And she still only cared about him. He let out this loud, disgusted breath, then spat on the floor like he couldn't stand the sight of her. Don't think talking about inheritance is going to make me give a damn, he sneered. Honestly, you'd be better off dead. At least then I wouldn't have to deal with any of this. Her whole body started to shake. So that's it, she choked out. You're not even going to help? Now you're wishing me dead? She spun toward me again, louder this time, like she was daring me to prove I still cared. Fine, even if you're ungrateful, I still have a daughter. I don't need a son anymore. And I stepped in, calmly, quietly. Mom, I said, if that's how you really feel, then make it official. Cut him off. Let him go. She froze. I moved closer, took her hand. Didn't you just say he's no longer your son? Don't let him keep hurting you. Let it end. You still have me. Her face softened for a second, like she was going to lean into it. You're right, she whispered. You've always been the one here for me. I don't need a son like him. Having you, that's enough. But then, just as quick, she hesitated again, her voice turning softer, fake concern lacing every word. But he's still your brother. He might not respect me, but he's always cared about you. Cutting him off, isn't that a little much? I knew that tone too well. I'd fallen for it once, not this time. Mom, I said, if he doesn't want to be your son anymore, let him go. You still have me. I'll take care of you. And that's when her face stiffened, like she couldn't find another move to make. And that's when he snapped. Nia, he barked. I knew it. You've been faking this whole perfect daughter act your entire life. You're not doing this out of love. You're doing it for the money. You think I can't see through you? He pointed right at me, his voice rising, venom in every word. You've been putting on this fake little show since we were kids. You don't get to tell her to cut me off. I ignored him. I turned back to her, forcing her to face me, forcing her to answer. Mom, is that what you think too? That I'm only here for your money? That I only care because I'm hoping to get something out of it? She didn't answer. She just stared at me, mouth slightly open, like she hadn't planned for this to happen. So I gave her the way out. If that's really what you believe, then let him take care of you. She wasn't ready for that. She started to panic, stammering, shaking her head. No, Naya. You're my daughter. You've always been the one who helps me. Your brother, he can't do it. And I just stood there, staring at her, wondering why it always had to be me. He heard her say it too, that he couldn't do it. And that lit him up. He pointed at both of us, shouting so loud it shook the room. "Fine, if that's how it is, then don't ever call me your son again. I'm done. I won't take care of you now, not ever. And when she finally kicks you out, don't you dare come crawling to me." He kicked the side of her hospital bed hard enough to make the metal frame rattle, then turned on his heel and stormed out. I watched Mom flinch like she wanted to call him back, like she was right on the edge of swallowing her pride again. But before she could get a word out, I lifted my eyes and met hers. She locked onto my stare, and I could see her freeze up, the words dying in her throat before they could reach the air. It took her a second, but she finally broke the silence, her voice trembling as she whispered, "Nia, did you see the way your brother treated me? How could you ever think he'd take care of me? It's just you now, baby. You can't leave me, please." I didn't answer. I just smiled, soft and empty, like someone who'd already made up their mind. And instead of feeding her the reaction she wanted, I shifted the topic completely. I told her I needed to head home for a bit, that I had to grab some clothes and I'd be back soon. I even asked her to wait for me like I always used to. She looked skeptical. I could see it in the way she clutched my hand tighter, pulling out a pen and paper from who knows where. She told me she didn't have much saved, but if I didn't mind, she'd leave everything she had to me. The apartment, the little bit of money. She promised she'd put it all in writing soon. I nodded, like I believed her. "All right," I whispered. "I understand." I walked out of that hospital room without looking back. And the moment I opened the door to my apartment, the smell of dinner hit me like a wave. He was there, my husband, busy in the kitchen, just like always. In my last life, I remember trying so hard to convince Mom to come live with us so I could take care of her more easily, but she refused. She said she didn't feel comfortable, so I'd spent every single day racing back and forth between our apartment and her place, tearing myself apart trying to be in two places at once. And through it all, my husband never complained. Not once. He took care of everything at home, quietly holding everything together while I broke myself apart. When I got pregnant, he even suggested we hire someone to help care for her. But the moment I brought it up, she lost it. She accused me of trying to abandon her after getting what I wanted. She called me ungrateful, selfish. In the end, I quit my job. I gave up everything to care for her full time. But after the stroke, she only got worse. The smallest things would set her off. She'd scream at me, curse me out, sometimes even hit me. And then she'd cry afterward, say she didn't mean it, that she was just scared. But day by day, my body gave out, until finally, I lost the baby. When my husband got the call, he dropped everything to be at my side. He didn't say a word. He just held my hand and told me to rest. I remembered that moment so clearly. In my last life, after I died, after I fell from that building, he was the one who handled everything. He called the police, he arranged the funeral, he took care of everything, for me. And now, standing here again, watching him move around the kitchen like nothing had changed, like I hadn't broken into pieces and come back to life, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I ran into his arms and buried my face in his chest. He wrapped me up without missing a beat. "Welcome home," he whispered. "Dinner's almost ready. Go wash up. I'll call you when it's done." He'd made all my favorite dishes. I blinked hard, trying to hold back the tears that were threatening to spill. The guilt started rising in my throat like it was trying to choke me. After dinner, the phone rang. I didn't have to look to know who it was. I picked it up and sure enough, it was her. "Nia, if you don't come right now, I'm going to starve to death in this hospital." I didn't rush. I leaned back on the couch and let out a breath I hadn't even realized I'd been holding. "Mom, the hospital has a cafeteria. If you're hungry, go grab something there. You don't have to wait for me." There was a pause before she exploded. "What? How dare you say that? Every time I was in the hospital, you brought me food from home. That cafeteria food is disgusting. How could you expect me to eat that garbage?" And it was true. She had been in and out of hospitals for years. Every single time, I'd cooked, packed, and delivered her meals 3 times a day. And God help me if I ever showed up late. She'd lose her mind. But tonight, I decided to play dumb. "But Mom, everyone eats at the cafeteria. It's clean. Look, I've got something I need to take care of tonight, but I'll visit you tomorrow. Just get some rest, okay? And then I hung up. Before she could call back, I flipped my phone to silent and left it face down on the table. That night, I slept better than I had in years. When I woke up the next morning, my husband was gone. I looked around confused until I spotted the note on the table. I'm heading to the hospital to bring your mom some food. You stay home and rest today. That's when it hit me. I'd missed all those calls. I grabbed my phone and saw them, dozens of missed calls. I called her back, and the moment she picked up, I heard her screaming. "Harder! Are you deaf? I told you to stay here, not over there. What's wrong with you?" And that was it. I couldn't do it anymore, I snapped. I grabbed my phone and called my husband. "Come home," I whispered. "Please, I'll handle the discharge paperwork this afternoon." She didn't miss a beat. The second she heard me on the phone, she let out this bitter little laugh, like she'd been waiting to spring it on me. She said something like, "Of course I didn't ask him to do anything. You're funny, you know that? You miss your husband after just a few hours, but you've never felt that way about your own mother. What a waste. All those years I spent raising you, and this is what I get." She didn't even try to hide the disgust in her voice. I just let out a breath and told my husband to go home, then hung up without saying another word. Later that afternoon, I walked back into the hospital and heard her before I even opened the door. She was on the phone again, her voice all soft and syrupy, playing the role of the sweet, loving mother. I heard her say something like, "Don't worry, baby, you're my one and only son. Of course I'm leaving everything to you." And then she lowered her voice, like she was letting him in on some private joke. I mentioned it to her yesterday, but it wasn't notarized or anything. I only said that to calm her down. Don't take it seriously. I had my hand on the door when I froze. I didn't even breathe. I quietly pulled out my phone and hit record, catching every word as she kept talking. She sounded so proud of herself, telling him how I'd never suspect a thing because, in her words, "Nia's always been so obedient. If she thinks I'm leaving her the inheritance, she'll try even harder to take care of me." And then she laughed again, that sharp little laugh that made my skin crawl, adding, "I don't want to bother you with this stuff. You're a man. You shouldn't have to serve anyone. It might hurt your career. I'll make sure she quits her job and takes care of me full time." I stood there listening, and honestly, I felt nothing. No shock, no pain, no rage. Just silence. She didn't have that kind of power over me anymore. When she finally hung up, I pushed the door open. She nearly jumped out of her skin, fumbling her phone onto the floor. She clutched at her chest like I'd scared her half to death, and snapped at me. "Jesus, Nia. You almost gave me a heart attack. Why didn't you say something?" She tried to sound casual, but her voice cracked halfway through. I kept my face as blank as I could and played dumb. I tilted my head and asked, "What's wrong, Mom?" I always come in quietly. "Who were you on the phone with?" Sounded kind of serious. She froze. I could practically see the gears turning in her head as she tried to figure out what I'd heard. Finally, she narrowed her eyes and asked, What did you hear?" But I didn't answer her question. I just threw my own right back at her. "Didn't you just get off a call?" And like clockwork, she tried to flip the whole thing again. She waved her hand like it was nothing and changed the subject completely, muttering something about how my husband clearly didn't care about her because, according to her, one word from me and he just walked out like it didn't mean a thing. I stared at her, stone-faced. "He doesn't have to take care of you." That set her off again. She scoffed and snapped. "He married you, didn't he? That makes me his mother-in-law. How could you possibly think he doesn't have to?" I didn't even bother answering. I just sat down on the edge of her bed and asked the one thing I actually cared about. "Hey, Mom, didn't you say yesterday you were going to write your will? Did you finish it?" She turned away, rummaging through the drawer like she was looking for an excuse. I heard her mumble something about not knowing how to spell a few words, so she hadn't finished yet. So I leaned in and kept my voice steady. "I can help you. I'll type it out on my phone and you can copy it in your own handwriting. That way it's all legit." I reached over, grabbed that fake will she scribbled yesterday, and tossed it straight in the trash. She didn't even have time to react. I could see her fist clench like she wanted to explode, but somehow she bit it back. While she was distracted, I pulled out the tiny camera I'd hidden in my bag and started recording. The lawyer I'd met the day before told me this was the safest way. Catch the whole thing on video, just in case she tried to twist it later. So she started writing. And the whole time, she kept trying to get me to write it for her, dropping hints, complaining about how her hand hurt. But I sat there and refused. Not this time. Finally, she dropped the pen and let out this long, fake sigh. There, happy now? I've left you everything, so you'd better start treating me properly from now on. I didn't respond. I just folded the paper, slipped it into my bag, and stood up. I'm going to take care of the discharge paperwork. We're going home. Like always, I paid the bill. She handed me her bank card again, just like she used to, like some kind of twisted gesture of goodwill, knowing I'd never actually use it. She loved having that little claim in her back pocket, being able to say she'd offered. But this time I swiped her card and paid every cent with it. I wheeled her out of that hospital, rolled her right into the apartment, and that's when I saw him, my brother, standing there like he owned the place, waiting for us like nothing had changed. The second I stepped through that door, he didn't waste a breath before lunging at me with accusations. "You used Mom's card, didn't you?" he snapped, like he'd caught me red-handed. "You're trying to steal her money." I could tell by the way Mom flinched that she had no idea what he was talking about. I tilted my head and played dumb. "What card? The one Mom gave me?" That's when he whipped out his phone, shoving the screen right in my face. He had her bank app open, the balance showing exactly what I already knew. It was empty. He leaned in, voice dripping with fake outrage. "Don't even try to deny it. Look at that. Not a single cent left. Mom, look at your precious little daughter." Right on cue, she snapped her head toward me, her face twisting with fury. "Is that true? What did you do with the money? Give it back. I'm not dead yet." I stayed calm. I reached into my bag, pulled out the hospital receipt, and held it up. "Did you already forget, Mom? You told me I could use that card to pay your medical bills." She froze. I could see the realization hitting her like a slap to the face. She hadn't expected me to actually use it. I let that silence hang in the air for a moment before I added, "And didn't you say I was the only one who even knew about that card? So why is he so invested in your bank account?" My brother didn't even hesitate. He jumped right in, practically spitting as he shouted, "What's it matter if Mom wanted to give me the money? It's her money. She can give it to whoever she wants." And for the first time, I saw it. Just a flicker of hesitation on her face. Just for a second, she looked caught. But of course, she tried to smooth it over. She mumbled something about how she just didn't want him to struggle out there, how it wouldn't hurt to let him have a little pocket money. Because apparently, there wasn't much left anyway. She even looked me dead in the eyes and had the nerve to say, "And I know you're fine, Nia. You don't need that little bit of money. Be a good daughter, won't you? Just give it back to your brother, okay?" And of course, hearing her take his side just made him puff up even more. He stepped forward, practically barking in my face. "Yeah, give it back, or you'll regret it." I stood there and watched them go back and forth like it was some kind of tag team match. Both of them acting like I was the villain here. Like I hadn't already spent years of my life paying for everything. Her food, her clothes, her medicine, her hospital stays. I never once asked her for anything, not a single penny. And she never offered. That card, her one act of generosity, wasn't even real. It was just another leash. Something to keep me close, to keep me trapped, afraid to walk away. And now she was just handing it over to him like it didn't mean a thing, and then turning around and having the audacity to ask for more. I took a breath and let my voice go cold. "There's nothing to give back. I already used it to pay your hospital bills. If you're so curious, why don't you go down to the billing office and ask them yourself?" I let my eyes settle on her. "And if all you care about is your precious son, maybe you don't need me anymore. Why don't you let him take care of you from now on?" My brother stiffened like I'd slapped him across the face. He lunged forward again, shouting, "Nia, are you serious right now? Mom raised you, and you're ready to dump her just because she said one word? What the hell is wrong with you?" I almost laughed in his face. "I'm the heartless one? Really? Then tell me, who was the one sitting in the hospital with her every night? Who was running around like crazy handling everything when she got sick? Where the hell were you, huh?" I could see his jaw tighten, but I didn't stop. "You say I'm faking it? That I never really cared? Fine, then you take over. I turned my back on both of them and started to walk away. That's when Mom panicked. She reached out, grabbing my arm, her voice trembling. "Nia, he was just joking. You know how your brother talks. Don't take it to heart." She clung to me like I was her last lifeline, her voice dropping into that same manipulative whisper I knew all too well. "I already wrote you into the will. I promised I'd leave everything to you. You have to take care of me. What will I do without you?" She kept dangling that will like it was the only thing keeping me tethered. And of course, my brother couldn't help himself. He had to jump in, too. "Exactly. She's leaving it all to you. That makes you responsible. You owe her." I turned to face them both, looking them dead in the eye. I haven't taken a single thing from her, not one thing. I've already spent years taking care of her. And you? I turned to my brother. You're the one who said you didn't want anything. So why don't you think of that money as payment for my labor? Mom's face darkened. What about the future? I didn't even hesitate. I turned back to my brother. The future? Let him take care of you. I leaned in a little, keeping my voice low. He doesn't have a job anyway. Spends his whole life wandering around doing nothing. And you like him best, don't you? I stood up straight, looked her right in the eyes, and finished it. I'm sure you'll be so happy having him look after you. From now on, if you need anything, ask him. I'm going back to work tomorrow. She clutched my hand so tight I thought her fingers might bruise mine. How can you even think about going back to work, she gasped. If you leave, what am I supposed to do? You should start drafting your resignation letter tomorrow morning. And of course, my brother had to jump in, even more eager than she was to keep me trapped. You're not taking care of her, he said, eyes locked on me. If you're not worried she'll die alone, fine, go ahead, leave her with me. I didn't respond. I acted like I hadn't even heard him. I gently pulled her hand off mine, calm and steady, and said, That's up to you. I'm not your only child, remember? She was lying on the bed, helpless and still, with no choice but to watch me walk away. She called out after me, her voice rising into that sharp, shrill panic I'd grown up with. Nia, how can you treat your own mother like this? You ungrateful little snake. I should have known having a daughter was useless. I never should have given birth to you. I turned my head, gave her one last look, and said flatly, Right, daughters are worthless. It's the sons like him who are your real treasure. Good luck with that. And I left. From that day on, I stopped caring. At first, she blew up my phone. Calls, messages, voicemails. Pleading, threatening, guilt-tripping. She said he was mistreating her. She said she'd die if I didn't come back. She even sent me pictures of herself, hair a mess, food spilled on her clothes, looking miserable. Anything to make me feel guilty. I ignored all of it. And once that weight was finally off my back, my life started to feel like mine again. I had more energy for work, for my husband, for myself. One afternoon during my lunch break, I checked the surveillance feed from a little camera I'd secretly installed in the apartment. Back when I still worried about leaving her alone, I'd put it in place. Neither she nor my brother had any idea it was there. Turns out, when he'd said he didn't care whether she lived or died, he meant it. He hadn't been back once. I was watching the feed when, almost by chance, she picked up her phone and called him. She called over and over, until finally he picked up. I couldn't hear his voice, but I could hear hers, sweet, coaxing, like she hadn't spent years tearing me apart. Okay, come home, all right? I'll be waiting. I couldn't help but raise my eyebrows. He was actually coming? That got my attention. What had she promised him? Sure enough, not long after, he showed up. The first thing out of his mouth? So how are you feeling today, Mom? Didn't you say you were going to take me to get the will notarized? You weren't lying, were you? And there it was. He hadn't come out of concern. He came for the money, for the will. He hadn't worked a day since graduating. He'd been living off her for years, gambling away everything he touched. The only reason he ever claimed he didn't want her money was because the idea of taking care of her was too much of a hassle. But now he was desperate. And desperate men don't hesitate. I saw her nod on the screen, that fake maternal glow back in her eyes. I thought she was loyal, she said. But you were right. Her kindness was all just an act. Good thing I never gave her anything real. His eyes lit up. Told you, didn't I? Only your son is worth trusting. My sister? She's a manipulator, a liar. Aren't you afraid she'll steal everything from me? She nodded again, firmer this time. Let's go. Let's get that will notarized right now. I'll leave everything to you. She won't get a single cent. The more I listened, the colder I felt. Years. I had spent years feeding her, bathing her, lifting her in and out of bed. I gave up my job. I gave up my health. I gave up my child. And now, all because I'd finally said no, finally refused to play servant anymore, she erased everything, like I'd never existed. It was incredible, really. Just a few sweet words from my brother and she forgot everything. Forgot how he'd left her. Forgot all those nights he never came home. To her, he was still the only one that mattered. She'd never really seen me. All she ever wanted was to bleed me dry. He asked her where her ID and family papers were, already pushing to get the will notarized that very minute. She pointed toward a cabinet nearby and told him to check there. I watched through the hidden camera as he started digging through the drawers. Then he paused, turning back toward her and asked, "You're not playing me like you played Nia, are you?" She froze for a second, just long enough to make me wonder if she was about to crack. But she caught herself, forced out a laugh, and promised, "Of course not, I'd never lie to you. But once I give you everything, you'd better take care of me. Don't leave me here to rot. You're all I have left." And just like that, he leaned in with that syrupy voice he always used when he wanted something. "Don't worry, Mom. I'll take real good care of you." I watched as he gathered the papers, tucked them under his arm, and pushed her out of the apartment without even looking back. A few days later, she called me. Her voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. "Nia, how have you been? It's been so long since you visited. Are you still mad at me? You've always been such a good daughter. Please, don't stay mad." I knew that tone. She never sounded like that unless she wanted something. She kept going, telling me how my brother had promised to take care of her, but had already disappeared after just a couple of days. She said he wasn't answering her calls. Said she was alone, hungry, cold, struggling. And for the first time, she didn't sound proud or angry. She sounded small. But me, I felt nothing. I leaned back in my chair and told her flatly, "Maybe you should tell all that to your precious son. I've got work to do." That's when she brought up the will again, tried to guilt me, crying over the phone, telling me she'd left everything to me, asking how I could be so cruel. She said if she'd known this was how things would turn out, she never would have given birth to me. Said her whole life was nothing but disappointment. I waited until she ran out of breath, and then I asked her straight, "Didn't you say you only cared about him? Are you sure you left it all to me? Are you really sure?" She fired back instantly, like she was offended I'd even question her. "I wrote the will, didn't I? You were there. Why are you still doubting me?" But I'd heard enough lies to last a lifetime. I told her the truth. "I heard what you said to him, at the door. You told him it was all fake, that it was just to trick me." She stuttered, tried to cover it up again, but I cut her off. "I've got the whole thing recorded, Mom. You want to hear it?" And just like that, she exploded, screaming, swearing, calling me every name in the book. I didn't even let her finish. I hung up, and I didn't think about her again. Until a few days later, when the police called. "Is this Naya? Are you her daughter?" The officer's voice was sharp, frustrated. "This is the station. What the hell is wrong with you people? Your mother's been dead in that house for days, and neither of you noticed. A neighbor reported the smell. That's how we found her. You need to come in immediately. Bring your family with you." I didn't even have time to process. On the way there, I tried calling my brother. No answer. When I got to the station, I asked one of the officers, barely able to get the words out. "Can you tell me how she died? She seemed fine the last time we talked." "We're still waiting on the autopsy," he told me. "Do you have any kind of surveillance equipment in the house? That could really help us." And that's when it hit me, the hidden camera. I didn't even hesitate. I handed it over right away. The footage from the hidden camera showed everything. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Just her lying there in bed like every other day. And then he showed up. I watched him walk over and stand by her bedside. His voice was low, steady, almost cold. "Mom," he said, "I really need the money right now. You're the only one I can turn to. And let's face it, you don't have much time left anyway. You might as well just die." Then I watched him pick up a pillow, and I wanted to believe I was wrong about what was about to happen, but I wasn't. He pressed it down over her face, and he didn't stop until she stopped moving. It was all there, everything, every second of it. Clear, undeniable. My brother had killed our mother. They arrested him not long after, and when I arrived at the station to give my statement, I ran right into him. He was yelling, thrashing around like they'd arrested the wrong person. The moment he saw me, his eyes locked on mine, and he started screaming. "It was you, wasn't it? You called the cops. She died at home. If anyone's to blame, it's you. Why are you putting this on me?" I stood there and stared at him, my voice steady when I answered. "We have the evidence. You killed her, for money. You knew how much she loved you, and you still did it." But he didn't even flinch. He just leaned in closer and sneered. "So what if you had a camera? She was gonna die anyway. She loved me, remember? She wouldn't have blamed me." I looked at him, knowing full well he believed every word. The same son she spent her whole life defending, protecting, loving without limits. In the end, he killed her over money, and he didn't even feel guilty. A month later, the trial started. It didn't take long. The video left no doubt. My brother was sentenced to life in prison. No appeals, no second chances. The court reviewed her estate after that, and after clearing all his debts, there was barely anything left. But thanks to that handwritten will, I was officially named the legal heir. I remember sitting there, staring at the final amount like it was some kind of cruel joke. A few tens of thousands of dollars. That's all that was left after everything we'd been through. I couldn't help but laugh. This was it? This was all our family was worth. Years of my life, every sacrifice, every sleepless night, all the pain I carried, and in the end, it wasn't even worth more than a handful of paper. It was ridiculous, it was pathetic, but finally, it was over.